Hey guys, well it is Saturday, the day after the Derby, and here's the Imperial. I got a lot of dents in her there, so I was pretty happy with the way things went. I got best of show for the best paint job there, which is pretty cool. I got a really awesome looking plaque. It has a clock built into it and everything. And then I ended up getting fourth in my heat. Unfortunately, I had to break my stick at the end because both of my engine mounts became loose, and I'm pretty sure what happened was the engine was started rocking around and it actually clipped my oil filter, and then I started spraying oil all over the place because then I started billowing out a whole bunch of smoke out from underneath the hood, and I had a big puddle of oil underneath the car. So I'm hoping that's what it is. Based off at a quick inspection, that certainly seems to be the case. So unfortunately I wasn't able to make it to the feature, but the car does have a lot of life left in it and we'll definitely be running it again next year. So I'll give you guys just a walk around of how it looks here. Obviously the stock bumper's seen some better days, but the frame itself is still right where it needs to be. It hasn't even folded up at all. They're pretty much straight, so that'll be good. Just have to either straighten this bumper back out depending on where I run, or hopefully just be able to put a new bumper back on it. Opened the fenders up pretty good, but it did smush the front end pretty flat. So obviously we'll have to be hooking that up to a tractor or something and be pulling those fenders back out. And as you can tell, the engine, you can see the motor mounts are definitely broken because it is not sitting level at all. It is definitely leaning to one side. I'll just keep on going around here. Yeah, they ripped a big hole right in my rear passenger side here. Ripped this part, my weld, this is my bar welded in place. They ripped that right out. And it tore the metal, sheet metal here, and it ended up getting pushed in way back in here. Broke all my spray foam body filler that I used to rebuild the fenders here and then the supports, so that way it looked like a regular car again. Pushed this side in pretty good, as you can tell, but I didn't lose any tires, so that was pretty cool. The back end here is definitely messed up, as you guys can see. So here's what actually happened to the rear end. At first observation, you can see the frame really hasn't bent all that much. We got some curling up underneath here, which is fine because that's the way these cars usually bend. They start to curl up in the back, and that's fine because you want it to bend up anyway. But what happened is a guy who was in a station wagon came and did basically a full track shot onto me. He climbed his front bumper right up and over top of my rear bumper. So his bumper went over top of here and was way back into my trunk here, just even with where this hood is. He was way up, right up against, way back up in here, which is, from this angle you can see he was up there in my rear end quite a long ways. But what happened was we got caught up and we ended up just working together somewhat, and at least for a little while, and then eventually he was out, but I was still running and I was pulling him from one side of the track to the other, and I just kept making hits. Somehow my car had enough power that it was pulling him, and I was still making some really good hits. So I do have video footage of the heat, so if you guys have to keep checking in for that video coming hopefully within the next week or so. And some of the stuff that I'm talking about, you'll be able to look for it, so you might have to watch this video again just to get all the bits that I'm talking about. But yeah, he tore my side wide open over here, pushed the way in, bent the trunk up pretty good. But it's alright, because in order to run it again, we'll just fold that all down in and we'll be good. Continue on. I ended up taking a really hard hit to the driver's door, and I pointed out to the officials right after it happened, and apparently they decided to declare it as a non-intentional hit. But he hit me pretty darn square. As you can see how far in that pushed my side in, and he took out this door too. He just this was actually a separate hit, I think, on this door, but he hit me hard right here. And if you look, my seat's not entirely straight because it got pushed in, the bar got pushed in, and it tore a seam all the way down this side of the door, breaking all my welds, and also ripping out this front corner as well. But the officials' rules are what you have to follow, so if they declared it as non-intentional, it was non-intentional, but it still hurt. Oh, there's the broken stick, unfortunately. And then this front corner did get pushed in pretty good. I made a couple really hard hits and kind of folded that corner over. But if we bend it back, I think we'll be alright. Still got a lot of life because the main supports of the fenders here are pretty good and strong. So if we just start pulling that stuff out, it should be good to go. Gotta see it all tucked up in there. Try to give you guys a viewpoint of what actually happened to my engine mounts here. Hopefully you guys can see it alright. The mounts have the mount that I built completely separated from the frame of the car. I have this chunk of flat stock that runs here, and it's actually a chunk of angle iron, and it's supposed to be way down over here. See where that the light's coming through right there? This edge is supposed to be down right over in there, so it's about 3 inches shifted off to the left, and it's up on top of that support, so it's definitely far away from where it's supposed to be. And on this side of the motor, as I was kind of hinting at before, there is oil all over this side of the motor, right by the head, down the whole side of the block, and particularly over here by the oil filter. And you can see there's some puddles over there on the shock tower and the brake lines. So I'm pretty confident. I won't know until we take this car apart, which really won't be until the spring. I think we're pretty much going to get it off the trailer and put it in for storage, just because I'm a college student and just don't have the time to mess with this right now. But as you can see, that's dented in really bad, so I feel pretty confident saying that it was just rocking back and forth, hit the corner of that, sprung a leak, and started shooting oil out. And I even feel stronger about that, just being that I'm only losing oil when the car is running. If it's sitting and idling, if it's just sitting there, it's not losing any oil. So it's only when it's running, which points out that it's most likely right over here where it's going to be shooting out of the filter, but I don't know that for sure, and I won't know it until we pull the motor out and can inspect the oil pan. Hopefully I didn't crack the oil pan, but if not, then we'll have to fix that as well. And kind of walk you guys across the front here while I get over to the other side of the car. Try to show you the mounts over on this side. And there's that one as well. This is if you can kind of see it, it's a chunk of angle iron. And what happened was it used to sit flat up against the plate on the bottom, and it's now tipped off to this side, so it's a good 3 inches off from where it's supposed to be too. So the motor's not sitting quite level, and I got oil all over the place. What happened was, as soon as both engine mounts broke, it started shooting oil out because I started getting a bunch of smoke underneath the hood. So that's when I shut it down and I broke my stick, and unfortunately that was the end of it for me. But I didn't want to hurt the motor anymore, and the motor still runs. So for what that's worth, we did fire it up in the pits after we got off the track, so that way we can move it to get it on the trailer, and it fired right up. It's running on all cylinders. It doesn't have any knocks or anything, so there isn't any immediate internal damage to this motor whatsoever. The only troubles is it's leaking oil, and we're not really sure where that's coming from, so we'll have to figure that out. But here you go. Here's the Imperial. We did record the heat, so keep stopping back for video footage of that. And we also recorded the feature. Now, I couldn't believe it, but there was 16 of us out there with Imperials at this derby. So you guys definitely want to check out that feature, because I know that at least 12 to 13 of those cars were Imperials in the feature. It was really rough, lots of hard hits, and it was quite a show. So here's the Imperial, guys, and keep checking back for updates.
What will be